Good morning. So I get to say a few things about creativity to add to all the amazing talks that have happened this month. We've had some fantastic lessons, haven't we, in creative, conscious living? And I just really love the science of mind practice because for anyone who's new, there's a huge emphasis on creativity at its core and the kind of power that when you let the divine creative flow through you, the kind of power that you have to create the life you want and to improve lives of others and for the world. So it's a great emphasis. But I don't know about some of you, but I don't always feel it. Does anyone ever get kind of shut down and slightly stymied? And sometimes when I'm not letting that creative power flow through me, my creative small self starts to create my life to be repetitious or full of problems or dilemmas or things that are not terribly expansive. So what do I do about that? Well, Ernest Holmes said you have as much creative power as you allow to flow through you. And if you can allow it to flow, great. If you can't, then here's a couple tips from me. I work in a creative field, and sometimes I get assignments that are just too short of a time frame to do something amazing. Sometimes I'm asked to do the best thing in the world, things that are better than everybody else's, and I get a little bit stuck. So I'm going to give you 3 tips for how I open up myself to the divine flow. Usually when I get an assignment, I obsess over it for a while, and I research the information. And then I go clean the kitchen. Or I scrub the grout and the mold on the tile in the shower. Does this sound familiar to anybody? And then time goes by, and I'm still cleaning. And there's junk mail that needs to be sorted as well. So I was on the phone with my mother a couple of years ago, and I said, gosh, I really, really wish that I had learned better time management skills, because I work myself up to this frenzy of stress and not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and then it all happens at the last minute. And I was expecting her to join me in this self-criticism. And she said, oh, no, don't change a thing. You've always been like that. That's how you do your best work. How great it was to be affirmed in my procrastination. But she said, no, it's incubation. The creative process needs to sit in your subconscious. It needs to work its way through. God will do the work for you. Just let it be. So I encourage you, when you're stuck with a problem or you're obsessing over how to get something done, go do something else. Just go do something else. I know a lot of you went to CBAC last week. I can't wait to see what was incubating there in all your noggins. What's going to happen next week? Just amazing. Take some space and don't punish yourself. The second way that I tend to help the flow happen is called divergent thinking, but it's actually easier to understand if you say it's combining unlike ideas, things that don't belong together. You know how our intuition works. It sometimes does that, but we ignore it because it doesn't make sense. Some of you may have been to the Museum of History and Industry and seen the exhibit about the Great Seattle Fire. And if you haven't seen it, what we did there was combine unlike things to create something brand new. So we created on one side a history exhibit, and on the other side, a Broadway musical. So the two things, a Broadway musical combined with a history exhibit, created something new. And it's kind of a compelling way to tell the story. You can do this in your life by using, and I do it, by using random objects that come to mind that God puts in front of you to let your mind riff. A friend of mine was stuck in a remote village in Spain. She'd missed the only shuttle to the airport. She had to figure out how to get to the airport. She uses this technique quite often. You take an object, whatever object God puts in your visual field the first time. It was a wine crate. She asked herself, what does a wine crate have to do with getting me to the airport? So she riffs and she says, what's the wine crate made of? What was in the wine crate? What does it say on the wine crate? What is it? How did it get here? How did it get here? Somebody delivered it. She remembered the delivery boy had a truck. There was a phone number on the wine crate. She got to the airport. Right? So allow your mind to do that, because we are sort of stifled in our Western way of thinking. We use evidence thinking, we use logic, we use reason, we use everything but our intuition sometimes. And these different ways of looking at things can open that up. Ernest Holmes said the whole human race is hypnotized because it thinks what somebody else told it to think. Well, don't be one of those. Allow God to tell you what to think. Lastly, is to change your frame of reference, to reframe things. We talk about it a lot here at the center. We say it's not a problem, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. It's not a failure, it's something you learned, truly. So if you're looking for a job and you're stressing about your resume, why don't you write a resume of failures? List everything you've failed at. List everything that you've learned through those failures, and you'll have a lot more fodder for a really conventional resume than you would have if you'd approached it the other way. So many times when we make exhibits, I ask my team, make the worst exhibit possible for this topic. Just do the worst thing. They have so much fun. And then they come up with all these terrible ideas, and then I say, okay, now you have to make it the most fabulous one. Oh. Well, all of the incredible creativity that happens when you convert the worst ideas to the best ones create wonderful, wonderful ideas from which there's a lot of potential. If they're not feasible, it doesn't matter. There's still value in the actual idea. Because the true imagination is not fanciful daydreaming. It's fire from heaven. It's what really fuels you. So I hope these 3 points have helped you think of ways to open up your mind to that divine creative flow. Incubation, divergent thinking, reframing, and just remember, the worst thing that could happen into your life could be the best. Because when you look back, that's usually how it is. So good luck on having that open mind to finding a thriving and potential in your life. Thanks.